So my project is gonna be about how big, how the big vehicle companies impacts the economy. Ever since I was young, I mostly hanged out with my dad and uncle while they worked on cars. Most of the time, my dad and my uncle worked on classic cars while I would stay near them and watch. Every time I was around with cars, I always thought to myself how car manufacturers have different designs in every 6 years. Like how back then people really bought big muscle cars with big engines, and nowadays people are buying more cars that are more compact and that has smaller engines. So in this presentation, I am going to talk about how people choice of vehicle can have an effect on the manufacturers. This article I chose is called Vehicle Choice Behaviors and the Declining Market Share by Kenneth and Winston. Kenneth and Winston created this article explaining how people's behavior let them choose any of their own vehicles of their liking. Even though this article was created back in 2007, I find it pretty interesting how people can choose the vehicles of their likings, which could have a huge impact of the vehicle's company market. In the article, it also talks about the percentage of the market share from most of the profit of the vehicles being sold. It showed that the United States has the highest percentage from selling Japanese and European cars. After that page, it takes you to another page that shows percentage of the car company's sales in past years. But it shows car companies that has really high and low percentages. The car companies that had the highest percentage from sales were General Motors, then is Ford, third is Chrysler. After those three American car industries, then comes the two big Japanese, which are Toyota and Honda. Overall, this article has really caught my attention because I really like reading about car industries and how people choice can have an effect on their vehicle industries. For my second article, which is called Brand Loyalty and the Decline of American Automobiles by Fred Mannering, he wrote about how Japanese car industries were growing because they were selling more of their products in the United States. When that was happening, American car industries were trying to close down their companies by because they weren't making that much profit on their own vehicles. He also he also mentioned the Japanese cars. The Japanese car companies had 10% of the American profit share, and by doing that, they were known as the most reliable car industries. By having really good reliability, car industries could get a lot of people trusting on their own companies. Car companies could also get their loyalty from showing themselves in newspapers, car magazines, and commercials. Also, when car companies have their loyalty from their customers could either choose a used vehicle or a new vehicle from the car company. Having people trust on cars companies can make their market go up when they're used cars like Toyota. Toyota creates a lot of vehicles that are really reliable, like the Camry, Corolla, and the trucks. When Toyota sold those cars, it created a lot of trust on the people that bought the cars from Toyota. When the years when when the years passed, people would know that Toyota uh, has made really great cars, and that the used ones are also really good to purchase. And my third article I chose is called A Vehicle Ownership and Utilization Choice by Brownstone and Fang. They created this article which talks about how people who have behaviors for choosing different types of vehicles. Like how some prefer buying cars over trucks, minivans over SUVs, etc. In this journal, it explains how every state has different numbers of cars and trucks that are being driven every day. It also mentions that every manufacturer would track the amount of mileage of their vehicles so that they can see how many miles people drive in their own cars. In the journal, it also explains how people living in local places like cities would often use vehicles like sedans, coupes, minivans, and family SUVs. People who live near the beaches and places that are known for hot days would, would have vehicles that are most likely convertible and family SUVs. For the people who live in the countryside or in the Sierra, would most likely drive an older model vehicle that is mostly used for work, or drive a big trucks that are off-road compatible. Every state has their own preferences, and people who have different types of taste in them can have their own vehicles. So for my research overview, I chose to create surveys for my senior thesis research project, and by doing that, I could get answers by letting people answer my questions about my research. I also chose to interview some people that I could find in public and ask them about their vehicles and collect information. I would also share my survey through social media like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. I would also send it to some of my family members like my cousins and see what they chose. After I've gotten my information that I needed, I will see it in my charts and compare it to people's responses. For my research findings, I've spent I sent my survey to some people that I know and also sent it to people in Instagram and shared it on Reddit. On Reddit, I sent it to three subreddits communities, and all those three subreddit communities I have gotten 21 people to respond on my survey. Um, in the subreddit, there was some people that were out of the country, so they put some answers that were like out of out of the country answers, which most of the people in the United States might not know. So in my survey, I asked a question saying, "Do you own? Do you, the person doing the survey, currently own or use someone's car?" And 80% of the people answered yes, that they own a vehicle. 4.8 says that they use their parents' vehicle, and 14.3 says that they don't own a vehicle. Also, the majority of people that that has a vehicle are sedan types, and the year range is 2010 to 2019, and most of the vehicles are from the Japanese car manufacturer. Another thing I've noticed in my survey is that a lot of people own gas powered vehicles and electric, diesel, ethanol, and hybrid. The one question that made some people quite confused was, what country does your vehicle manufacturer come from? Which I could sort of understand why some people don't know where the car manufacturers come from, because some of the car companies don't mention where their vehicles are made. Also, in my survey, a lot of people says that Toyota is the most reliable car company, which I could agree because people that own Toyota vehicles had less breakdowns and that the vehicles from Toyota last really long. One example is the Toyota Tundra that surpassed 1 million miles and it's still running, as you can see in this picture. So in my visualization, so on the first question, I put the how many people own the car. 80% said yes, 14% said no, and the 8% said they borrows the parents. On the second question, uh, the most cars of a person owned was 8, which is that right there. And most people own one car, which is 40%. If the type of car was mostly a sedan, which was nearly 50%, and The year range was the 2010 to 2019, about 57.1%. For the type of engine of people's cars, were the V6 the most common one. Then it was the inline four. The country, it was a lot of people got their cars from the United States, and the Japanese was next, and lastly the European. One person got Korea, which I believe it was the Kia, I believe, or it might be uh, Hyundai. So the common fuel type is gas. Then it goes diesel, then electric. Nobody got hydrogen. Oh, and one person got ethanol. The car company the people trust most is Toyota by 11. Then there goes Honda, and then Nissan. They're like the only thing common is that they all are Japanese. So after creating my survey, which gave me the information that I need to prove that imported vehicles from out of states are better than the American vehicles. While I was doing my research, I found out that Chrysler and GM, General Motors, has a lot of vehicle recalls, but the car company that has the most is Ford. After seeing, I found out the 1 million mile truck, which I found pretty interesting. That a truck from 2007 has so many miles, which comparing to my car that barely reached 190,000 miles, it makes my car looks like it's still a brand new car. Also, in my research, I found out that a lot of people own cars that are from the America place, which most of them has V6 engines. And in my survey, no one does not own a hydrogen powered car, which I did some research on why there's less people using hydrogen powered vehicles, and it is because the only state that has hydrogen fuel stations is California. So, in conclusion, most of the car companies are doing good in the economy. The American car companies are actually doing great now. That most of them are quite moving to electric cars like Cybertruck from Tesla, the Mustang Mach E from Ford, and the all new Hummer from GMC, which all of them are fully electric. Also, the Japanese car companies are thinking about doing the same thing of switching into fully electric cars too. By doing that, I think it might have a good effect onto the environment. With that movement, pretty much all the biggest car industries in the United States will move into fully electric cars later in the years. Now that the government is now wants to stop all gas and diesel powered cars so we can start making a change into the environment. Tesla also mentioned that they're going to create semi trucks that are powered by their lithium car batteries, which are bigger and different in their different models. In California, they will stop making combustion type engines by the year 2035, and they will start selling vehicles that are fully electric. Toyota also said that they might sell more vehicles that are run by hydrogen, but the only problem is that Toyota has to open more hydrogen stations all over the United States, and by doing that, it would sort of be really expensive, which could have a really bad effect on the economy. I also think that if Toyota does that movement, other Japanese car companies will follow them and create either hydrogen or fully electric cars. When the car company will sell more electric cars, they will make a lot of money depending on how reliable their vehicles are. And by that, I will end my research about the effects of the vehicles economy in the United States. Thank you for watching.